I went to Target the other day, and there had to be a line of maybe 100 people waiting in line for the chance to get Pokemon cards.
Have been stolen during a string of attacks on
no way.
The most expensive Pokemon trading card sold is $5,275,000.
Pokemon cards are
Why is that $5 million?
Pokemon cards. Such a fun, innocent hobby for kids. You know, opening packs, trading them, battling. It all brings so much excitement and joy. And really, that's what Pokemon cards are all about. Good, clean, wholesome fun. Right?
Pokemon cards worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Criminals have a way to hide their money behind an innocent child's card game.
I'm scared for the hobby. I actually, having this as the future of Pokemon cards, it'll destroy the hobby.
Okay, maybe not so fun. Pokemon cards have always been popular. I mean, it's Pokemon, you know, the single most lucrative media franchise of all time. Of course, the trading card game is popular. However, there's something I've noticed as of late. The Pokemon trading card game is very...
I've never seen that many people who actually know how to play it. It's more people collect. Yeah, they play at locals, and there's regional tournaments, but...
popular. More popular than it's ever really been. The Pokemon Company has beaten its record for most cards sold in a fiscal year 4 times in a row for the past 4 years, with the latest reported numbers being 11.9 billion cards sold during
it's
the
gotta
last
be
fiscal
like
year.
80% of people just collecting
so
them.
Many little pieces of cardboard being bought. Obviously, the card game is incredibly popular. Some might even say that it's so popular it's kind of terrifying, but you know, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Right now, I just want to dive into the question of how did all of this happen exactly? What are the factors at play that have brought upon this sudden gargantuan wave of interest and demand in the Pokemon trading card game? Well, in order to figure this out, we first need to jump back into the past 6 years, all the way back to the year 2020. So this was a
crazy time.
year. For
everyone was bored at home, and then they looked back at their
really
Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Usually did. People were cooped up inside and in some cases weren't able to visit their friends and loved ones. It was kind of a scary time, and so naturally many people escaped into simple comforts like entertainment. I mean, in general, stuff like streaming services and video games really took off. You guys remember the Animal Crossing craze of 2020, right? Everyone was playing that game. People bought Switches just to play that game. Escapism was in high demand, and
I was waiting for it. I already had my Switch.
From this. These years of isolation were incredibly lucrative for entertainment companies like Nintendo and Netflix. I mean, just look at this rise in revenue for Nintendo alone. It was insane, and this was no different for the Pokemon trading card game. Obviously, when the world was shut down, people had a lot more time to invest in collecting Pokemon cards, namely the millennials who grew up with the trading card game who now had disposable incomes. Of course, it's only natural for a product to start to balloon in value after its target demographic grows up and, you know, starts feeling all gooey and nostalgic for it. However, the added global isolation at the time multiplied this demand to an absurd degree until eventually it would explode.
Hey, good morning, little gang. What's poppin'? Oh.
On October 14th, 2020, famed internet idiot Logan Paul, or is it Jake Paul? You know, I get the two mixed up all the time. I have to be honest at this point. I just kind of assume they're two parts of the same
I also get them confused.
Itself through mitosis. Uploaded a video to YouTube where he purchased a PSA 10 base set Charizard card. For anyone who doesn't know what PSA 10 means, basically there's a company called Professional Sports Authenticator, or PSA, where you can have your cards graded on a scale of 1 to 10. There's a large large number of factors that can affect a card's value, such as scratches, smudges, warping, and all of these are taken into account during the graded process, with 10 being a gem mint, meaning it's basically flawless. And in the case of rare vintage cards, will fetch a very high price for collectors. Logan Paul bought his gem mint Charizard for $150,000. And the crazy part is that this
I thought it was way more than that
compared to the card he would buy afterward, the 1998 Pikachu Illustrator card, what many consider to be the holy grail of Pokemon card collecting. This card was never made available to purchase. Instead, it was handed out in various Japanese contests where fans would illustrate their own Pokemon cards. Logan purchased this card for a whopping $5.25 million and would go on to set a record for most expensive Pokemon card ever sold at a private sell. Of course, given how many subscribers he has, these videos would explode and would bring people into the hobby like never before. I mean, in general, Pokemon card influencers have been on an unprecedented rise. Live streams where people will just unbox boxes and boxes of booster packs get millions of views. When you add all of this to the fact that Pokemon cards have always been somewhat,
it might as well just be gambling.
Especially when you look at some of the art for the newer cards, you have a perfect storm of elements that have led to the current day craze for Pokemon cards. Not only are cards more valuable today than they were pre-2020, but the market in general is incredibly volatile, and the value of certain cards can jump drastically. One of the best examples of this is
10 out of 10. I'd always rather buy single cards than sealed product gambling.
the recent alternate full art Umbreon VMAX card from the Evolving Sky set, which has been nicknamed Moonbreon by the community for the art that's depicted on the card itself. Last year, this single card sold for over $1,000. And that was without it even being graded by PSA, which
that's
typically
crazy.
Most collectors aren't going to buy a card for that exorbitant of a price without it being graded. That's just how much hype there is for Pokemon cards in this day and age. And quite frankly, it's kind of scary. In January of this year, footage from a local Costco was released which shows several individuals, well, acting like rabid animals trying to get their hands on the newest release set of Pokemon cards.
Gosh,
to the point that people were getting physical with
They're
each other.
fucking crazy.
In general, it seems Pokemon cards have brought out a darker side of many individuals, and it's kind of getting out of hand. In 2021, Target actually had to temporarily ban all sales of Pokemon cards for the safety of their employees, as well as the fact that many people were literally just stealing them. It's getting kind of ludicrous.
I wouldn't even want to be involved in that.
Where a Japanese man literally...
I would just say you can keep them all. But they're ramping up production to keep up with this, so that people won't even want to do this.
Planned a heist to break into a store to steal cards. Like, he literally descended down into the store with a rope, Mission Impossible style.
I was gonna say this Mission Impossible as the movie.
And why various outlets would feel the need to stop selling Pokemon cards. And while many stores have resumed selling them, now they'll typically just keep them in the back or even lock them up. This is an actual picture from my local CVS. The Pokemon cards are now locked
been that way
within
for a
special
while.
little plastic bin that requires you to ask one of the store employees to unlock it for you. I remember when you could just go to checkout, get a few gummy bears, maybe a Dr. Pepper, and just grab a booster pack from the latest expansion on your way out. But now you have to look at another individual in the eyes and unironically say, hey, can you unlock the Pokemon cards for me? And you
I'm a grown man buying Pokemon cards. Yes, hello.
Bore into you, judging you as she calls over the guy with the keys, and everyone in line behind
you could say they're for your child,
trying to buy their sleep medication, as
or
you have to go with the key man to the toy section,
a younger brother, you know, or something, younger sibling.
Baby card game you want to buy. I'm sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. The saddest thing about all this is that these people The ones straight up threatening violence, acting like herds of chaotic animals to buy the newest sets, they probably don't even care all that much about the cards in the first place.
That's what I was
my
saying.
Friends are what we call scalpers. For anyone who doesn't
Just
know, a
purely
scalper
in
is
it for the
basically
money.
someone who will buy a highly demanded product in bulk and then sell it immediately after for much higher than its retail cost. These are the people who are selling these cards for hundreds and thousands of dollars, and the worst part is that, well, they can get away with it. Like I said, the hype for Pokemon cards is incredibly high right now. People are very passionate about the hobby to the point that they don't care. They'll pay over $1,000 if it means that they can have their own Moonbreon card, and thus the
That's
scalpers
insane.
make a fortune.
They're
and
bugging.
some poor sucker paid up
$1,000
months
for
worth of
cardboard.
rent for a shiny piece of cardboard. And sometimes it isn't even just for the highly sought after cards. Some scalpers might even try to get away with manipulating the price for cards that might not otherwise have been seen as desirable, but feel as though they can get away with it in this storm of hype.
$8 Snorlax earlier today, now $15 and soon to be $20, all in a few hours later. Think about this. And if you look at this chart up here,
Oh,
the
they're
rise
buying
is
it out.
Absolutely insane. In just 1 month, we are seeing 130% increase, which is
I mean, that's
really
not new.
happening
People
over
people
a
been
period of
doing
a
that
short
in
amount of
Yu-Gi-Oh
days.
forever.
These numbers are very scary to me. When somebody's buying 4 copies at $20, it is very hard to believe. Another one at 18, another one at 20. This is on the same day that they were selling for $8, and now you've got 10 of them being bought from one person for $15. It's manipulation. I think manipulation is a very real thing, and I think we're going to start, unfortunately, probably seeing a lot more of it.
People understand that there's a demand and they'll take advantage of it. And perhaps there's no one that knows this better than the Yakuza. I'm serious. In December of last year, the former head of a Japanese crime syndicate informed Shukan Gendai Online that the Yakuza, or basically the Japanese mafia if you aren't aware, would often use Pokemon cards as a means of laundering money. Money laundering is basically where you take money that's obtained illegally and make it appear as though it's actually legal. The anonymous Yakuza head is
How do they
quoted
do
as
that with
saying,
the cards,
Criminals
though?
who commit bank transfer fraud are converting the money they steal into Pokemon cards. Shady money can't be deposited in a bank, and there's a risk of it being stolen if you hold it.
Where are they? But how do they buy cards on the street with cash from people? But what do they do? Take those cards to stores and sell them for cash, but they put money on a card for them?
It in cash. Pokemon cards are
Maybe
easy
that's
to
right.
hide, and if you take them overseas and cash them there, you can't get tracked
Overseas?
So basically, the Yakuza will
What?
take the physical cash that they get, buy a ton of cards with it, then sell it afterward to claim their clean money.
Overseas?
And that might sound odd. After all, how are they supposed to
But
know
there's
which
TCG
packs have
and
the cards that
OCG.
people want to buy and that they can make their money back with? And to that, all I have to say is that you gravely underestimate the lengths that Japanese criminals will go. Like, do you not remember the Japanese Mission Impossible guy? Like, come on. Certain rare cards actually differ in various small ways compared to common cards. And apparently these differences can actually be measured without even having to open the packs. Specialized metal detectors can actually pick up on packs that have rare cards in them. Even
Wow.
small weight differences from pack to pack can be measured on special scales and can help inform them which packs have the ones they need. And this is kind of mind-blowing to me that we're now to the
We knew
point
that.
Pokemon cards have become a
Weighing
legit
packs has been a
method
thing
to
forever.
commit organized crime. And I never thought it would get to this point. This right here is my Pokemon card binder. It doesn't have every card I've ever collected, but for the most part, all the ones I love the most are here. And they've always been here.
I never really
cards
collected
for me
Pokemon.
have always just been a fun little hobby. Something I can just get momentarily lost in from time to time. Sure, not every card I own is an incredible super rare gem mint PSA 10 or whatever, and quite frankly, most of them are probably commons and haven't been stored in the best way. But to me, they're still special because they're mine, and they've always been here with me. I remember back in the 90s and early 2000s when Pokemon cards were just so innocent. They were just a fun thing for people to play with and collect, but now it almost feels like there's something else entirely. The culture surrounding them feels so cynical now, and honestly, I yearn for those early days when everything just seemed so much more simple. I don't know, but what I do know is I'll always have these cards, and they'll always remind me of a time when life was just a bit less complicated.